if I go to a website and it doesn't look professionally designed, or it doesn't look clean, or it looks dated, if the visuals are just off, I'm already making assumptions about your business that are negative. And that's the biggest mistake, I think, is that people think, oh, the information's up there. I put a few photos up there. It's good enough. People can find what they're looking for. Probably don't realize how much that's holding you back if you're not taking it all the way with also having a high-end appearance.
You're listening to the Venue RX podcast.
What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Venue RX podcast. On this show, we are passionate about documenting and sharing best practices around owning, operating, and managing world-class wedding venues. And we do a number of different types of shows on this channel. One of the show types that we do is the Venue Owner Series, where we talk to venue owners. We also talk to different professionals and industry experts around a variety of topics like marketing, sales, operations, finance, contracts, all sorts of things. And it's really fun to be able to provide this as a resource to the community. Now, I did want to mention, if you are new to the show, thanks for being here. If you are a show returner and this is your second or third time, or even more, listening to the show, please consider sharing us and tagging us on social media. We would absolutely love to see that. And this is really the only way that we grow our show here. So I am really excited today to be talking to Emily Lee with By Emily Jane. And thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me on.
We are going to be talking about websites today, and you are a website designer, correct?
Yeah, I do website strategy and design, specializing in the wedding industry.
Very cool. Very cool. We were just actually talking about, right before we got on, how impactful a website is to a venue's presence. And I think especially because it's so geographically focused, like a venue is in one specific space. You can't, unless someone's like a destination couple, you're getting married on property, and you've got to be kind of known in the area. So I'm really excited to dive in today with you about websites and website design. Can you give me a little bit of a background on you, and how did you get in this industry? Like, why website design, but then also why specifically for the wedding and events industry?
Yeah, totally. Okay, well, it's a really roundabout journey, so I'll try to summarize it. But basically, my company By Emily Jane is turning 5 years old in next month, which is super exciting. But it actually started as a photography business originally. And so that's really what I always wanted to do growing up. It's what I went to school for and everything. But then chronic illness and pain just got in the way, and photography is a really physically demanding job. So I started thinking about other ways that I could use that creative expertise. And I had spent so much time creating a website for my business and learning the ins and outs of that, and all that DIY stuff that so many of us need to do starting out. And so I had accidentally fallen in love with that, which was really cool. So I started pursuing that. And one of the first clients that I worked with on their website was a wedding florist. And I just fell in love. I was like, oh, this is perfect, because it's really, I think there's a lot of parallels with photography and design. So much is about visual balance. And then also just having been a photography business owner and understanding what those clients are looking for. And then my best friend is a wedding planner. So that was that really got me in the door in the wedding industry. And we had just got done planning my wedding together. So it was kind of a mix of all those things. And I was just you know what? The wedding industry, I think, is the perfect spot for me. It's really what I want to pursue. It's really where I feel like I have the most knowledge about what is needed on those kinds of websites.
Did you ever design websites prior to your own website? Did you ever design websites or have any sort of graphic design background that kind of informed that? Or was this just something that you tried really hard on your own site and then you were like, I can learn this, I can do this?
No, it really was just I'm just going to figure this out. And I didn't stop until I did. And then it was just one of those things that I had no idea I would become passionate about. I will say the most design experience that I had before that was when you go to school for photography, they make you take all different kinds of art and design classes. And so that I think that really helped too, because that was the first time I learned, hey, I could do other things, not just photography. Like I had no clue that I was kind of able to do other things. Like all you have to do is just try it, and you never know.
I love that. Thank you for saying that, because I think we often, I think as professionals in this industry, but really I think as humans, we put ourselves in boxes a lot of times. And I know, just speaking from my own experience, I think that I have put myself in more boxes than other people have. Like people, I think, talk about like having haters or something like that. And I feel like a lot of times we're our own worst critic. Like we are that like hater in our head, and you know, oh, you can't do that, or oh, like there's probably someone else doing that better, or like having some of those negative thoughts sometimes I think really can hurt us more than the people around us, you know.
Yeah, it's so true. I used to literally tell people, I'm not a creative person. I just know how to, like, I just know my way around a camera. And boy, was I wrong. Like, that is so sad that I used to tell people that. And even when with websites, when I started out, for a long time, I refused to call myself a website designer. I was like, I just know how to use the website platforms and I can give you some support there. Or like, oh, I just have a knowledge of like user experience. And then over time, like that confidence grew. But yeah, I'm really passionate about like just giving yourself the opportunity to try new things.
What I hear happening is an identity shift. This is a complete sidetrack, by the way, from websites, but let's go here for a second. I think this is really important for us to talk about for a second, because like you said that, and I just remember me shifting from, you know, working in a bunch of different jobs to opening my own business. And I remember kind of saying, oh, I don't want to, I don't know, am I a business owner? Am I an entrepreneur? And there's like this entrepreneur culture, and it's an easy thing to, at the very beginning, to not really like fully associate yourself as someone who like works for themselves, because those people are risky, or that thing over there, right? And as you slowly start to like you said, do more website design or use the website platform more, right? Soon you realize you got to make that mindset shift. You're like, I'm a website designer. Like I design websites. I am creative.
Yeah, what I realized is like you don't have to have that confidence to start calling yourself, like to start labeling yourself a title. You're going to get that confidence after you do it. Like call yourself the title, and then over time you'll start to like embody it. That's been my experience anyway.
And again, this is totally unscripted, not on topic, but Emily, can you take me through a little bit of like the rest of that process? Because I think for someone listening right now who maybe wants to get into photography, or wants to own a venue one day, or does wedding planning and they want to own a venue, or they've been asked to manage a venue, but they're not like totally in their skin, comfortable in their skin yet, kind of taking on that new identity. What was that process like for you of going from like, I'm not really a creative person, I'm not really a website designer, I just use the platform, to like, I've got a website design business and I'm creative?
Man, okay, so my confidence just came from experience. It just came from so much trial and error, continually pushing yourself a little bit past what you're comfortable with, just over and over. And I think with entrepreneurship, as probably most of us have learned by now, that's pretty much always required of you if you want to keep growing. You always got to be just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. And then it becomes comfortable, especially when you start to get that feedback from other people. So if you're scared in the beginning, you know, you can do things for free. You don't have to like charge money for things if you're really not confident that it's something you can do, or you just do things at a high discounted rate. So that was for me a great way to just dip my toe in without being like too scared of the consequences. And then I started getting that feedback from people saying, wow, you really helped me. I could have never done this on my own. Or I'm really impressed with XYZ, whatever it is in your case. And then you're like, you know what? I do have this skill, or I do have this knowledge, and that is worth something. And then I think it just builds from there.
That's huge. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really hope that inspires someone, and someone listens to this at one point or watches it on YouTube and is like, that's me. Like I can do this. You know, I'm gonna take it to the next level. All right, let's get back on track. Let's talk websites. So, one of the big things that I think is a missed opportunity for venues is having an incredible website that really showcases what they do. I'm curious, from the work that you've done with venues and with wedding and event pros, what are some of the biggest problems that you see on the websites when you start working with them, maybe taking over a website that they had previously done?
Ooh, okay. The biggest one that sticks out to me personally, because I am such a visual person and because the wedding industry is so like aesthetically inclined or whatever,
Yeah.
the aesthetics are important basically. And so that's the main thing that always sticks out to me is like if I go to a website and it doesn't look professionally designed or it doesn't look clean or it looks dated, whatever it may be, if the visuals are just off, I'm already making assumptions about your business that are negative. And that's the biggest mistake I think is that people think, oh, the information's up there. I put a few photos up there. It's good enough. People can find what they're looking for. And it's like, yeah, but that you probably don't realize how much that's holding you back if you're not taking it all the way with like also having a high end appearance. That the visuals are really just what we make those sort of subconscious snap judgments off of. Like if your website looks dated, then we think your business might not even be in operation anymore, or you don't have enough money to upkeep it or whatever. We just start making all these assumptions. So I think that's a really big one.
I'm curious, just one before you move on past that. You mentioned a website looking dated. What does that entail? Like, are there some things for someone listening to right now that they're like, oh my gosh, does my website look dated? Like, are there some things that you would say are pretty consistent for a dated website?
Yeah, good question. Thank you for asking that because a lot of times, since I'm looking at websites every day, I don't realize that like people might not know what the heck I'm talking about. So it's things like if you're unfortunately a lot of people's logos or their branding might look like it was created in 2016, and there are design trends, and so it may just look out of style at this point. So that's one thing. Another thing is if it's inconsistent with the branding across the board, meaning there's different fonts on each page, or there's no real clear color theme. So that's another thing to look out for. Another one is if your photos just are kind of low quality or pixelated, or again, they look like they're from like 2012. People pick up on those things. I mean, we're all inundated with photos on the internet every single day, and we know when something looks like it was from 10 to 15 years ago or whatever. It's hard to be more specific than that, but hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps. Can you take us through what a good website is? Maybe the components of a good website, and as someone is considering maybe taking a stab at doing it themselves, and we're gonna get to like hiring someone, maybe even like yourself, a little bit later in the show. But when someone's thinking about a website, what are some of the key elements that they should be including for their site?
Okay, sure, yeah. So there's really 5 things that I think, and all of these are sort of big topics that we can discuss further, but these are like the 5 key components that you want to be hitting on for like every venue's website. One, it needs to be easy to navigate with all the important info available. 2, you need to make it super, super easy for them to contact you. 3, you need to show credibility and social proof in a variety of ways. 4, using SEO best practices, meaning you're optimizing it for search engines, Google, etc. And then 5, like we already talked about, it needs to be visually appealing as well.
That is a whole list. Like you said, I'm sure we could go through each one and have a whole podcast just about each one of those. I want to ask though, when looking at that list, right? If someone were to write that out and they were to say, okay, I need to prioritize what I'm going to spend my time on. Is there a specific order that you would look at those things in, as far as kind of someone from the get-go, if they only have, a limited amount of time, maybe a limited budget, what should they be focused on first?
Yeah, I think Okay, so it's a little tricky, but okay, I'll try to answer this. Okay. So at the core of it, your website is ultimately about um, giving people the information they need, right? Like that's the bare minimum. And so you can totally start there, making sure that you have all the details about the space, the capacity you have, the amenities, all that kind of stuff. And then I also think pricing transparency is important. Having some kind of a general idea of pricing and your current availability as well, if you can, because that's the kind of stuff that's what people are coming there to find out. And nowadays people want to be able to do their research before having to reach out and not the other way around. So making sure that they can just get that basic information. And that's what so many of couples today are reporting that like they need that. If they don't have that information, they're not even going to bother reaching out. So definitely start there. And then, of course, that next step is how do they contact you? So you need to have that figured out too. This could be having buttons throughout your site that say contact us, or maybe it says book a tour or request a quote. Just figure out what that preferred process is for you and don't make people have to guess because every venue does it a little bit differently. And so you need to tell people this is exactly how to get started and make sure that there's some kind of button for them to be able to do that on every single page of your website. So I'd say those are the absolute basics to start with.
Every single page, so not just the contact page.
Exactly, yeah. So you can have multiple forms of contact. That's totally fine. But like I said, you just want to make it as easy as possible. So if you give people one action to take and make that the main thing that you're highlighting, like say you have a button in your header in your navigation menu, you can also have one in the footer at the bottom of every page. And just make it like one simple step that people can take. So that way there's no decision fatigue, there's no confusion. And then on your actual contact page, you can have multiple forms. Like you can have your email, your address, your phone number. And that not only gives people multiple options, but it helps you look more credible too.
Let's talk about credibility. And you mentioned social proof earlier. What is an effective way to show social proof or credibility on one's website?
Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways. The most simple one is to link to your social media accounts, just as long as they're active, because you don't want people going there and then seeing that you haven't posted in a year and then they're wondering if you're still in business. So any active social media account is just a great way to show people like, hey, we're running an operational, we're legit. And then once you have like real weddings and events to show, of course, you want to do that in your images, making sure that you're showing a diverse, uh, basically being inclusive in the images that you're showing and showing diverse couples and all that. So, that's just telling people, hey, we've been around, people have been using us and they seem happy with it. Along with that, once you can get some testimonials, some reviews from your clients, you want to make sure that you have at least one of those reviews on every page of your website and you're not just hiding them on like a reviews page because a lot of people will never click on that. And then lastly, if you have any awards or any places that you've been featured, that's also a really cool thing to show off.
I have a question about the inclusivity part and showcasing different things. Aside from the moral implications of being inclusive, why is it important to showcase different types of couples or things like that on your website?
Yeah, I think it's just it's becoming more important. Yeah, so it's not just like, oh, I'm doing this to make myself feel better. It's like especially with the couples that are getting engaged now, becoming younger and younger, as in like we're moving from millennials to like Gen Z couples now. It's super important to people nowadays that they can see that you're inclusive and people are buying based off of whether or not they feel like their values align with the company that they're buying from. And so it's a important thing in regards to sales, but it is also just like the right thing to do because everyone deserves a place to get married. So we don't want to leave people out.
totally. I was asking because I was just thinking about it a little bit more and thinking, again, moral conversation aside, and kind of like the right thing to do, right? Like, other than that, what about having a couple be able to kind of see themselves in the couple that you're portraying? Does that matter, or do you think that resonates with people and kind of helps them make a decision because they're like, oh, that is a couple that clearly has a ethnic or religious background that's similar to me, so it's kind of like they feel like they would be comfortable in the space because someone else was comfortable in the space who had similar, likes, dislikes, things like that. Does that matter at all?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. I think anytime that you're like hiring someone, you do want to see yourself in the project, or sorry, in the product or in the brand. You want to know that they understand you, they understand your needs. So yes, everything you said I think is spot on for any vendor for your wedding that you're hiring, for that matter. Like, if you're somebody who um, does not understand the needs of, say, like a cultural Indian wedding, then don't show that. So you do need to be intentional about it, but just making sure that if that's something that you do offer and that you know how to work, definitely show it, because as soon as you do that, you're going to attract more of those weddings every time.
Yeah. And especially if those are the types of weddings that you feel called to serve, the ones that you really feel like you can over deliver for them on, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
One of the 5, I can't fully remember, maybe number 4 on that list was the SEO. Are there some kind of back of the napkin, easy SEO practices that people can implement right away to kind of help get them a better SEO score? And actually, before you jump into that, can you tell us what the heck is even SEO? Like, for anyone who's throws the word around or the acronym around and doesn't really fully know what SEO is?
Yeah, totally. So it's basically just making sure that Google knows that your business is operational and is helpful for people so that they can show your website to the right people who are looking for that kind of help. So you need to make sure that Google understands, hey, we're a wedding venue or we're an event venue and we're in this location, and these are the type of people that we're trying to work with. And also that we're legit. We're a legitimate business. And so some ways to do that is, most of it is going to come from the content on your website, meaning the words on your website, because that's what Google's effectively reading. So making sure that your venue name is written out. It's not just in your logo, because Google can't read that. That's an image. Same thing with your location. Same thing with, if you have any specializations or a niche that you service, make sure that that's in writing. And beyond that, you just want to use relevant keywords naturally throughout your copy, meaning what are the things that your target clients are searching for? What are the things that you're typing into Google? And using those same kinds of phrases throughout your website in a natural way, just conversationally. But also, another important thing that I feel like a lot of people don't pay attention to is the mobile version of your website, meaning how does it look when someone pulls it up on their phone? That's another thing Google can monitor. And if any part of your website isn't easy to use, they're going to notice that people are exiting out of it a lot, and they're going to stop showing that website to people. So, it's just making sure that everything functions really smoothly on no matter what device people are using, and making sure it loads quickly. All your links and buttons are working properly, that kind of thing.
Emily, this has been super, super helpful so far. For me, I'm thinking about the websites that we have, and, let's say someone's listening to this or watching this on YouTube right now, and they're saying, okay, great. I've got some basic SEO stuff based on what you just said, right? I think it's pretty easy to navigate. I think it's more or less mobile friendly. I've done some social proof. I've got some reviews. I've got some contact us buttons. Kind of hit some of those 5 elements, right, that you mentioned. What is the next step? Like, what is taking it a little bit deeper? How does somebody understand how much traffic they're actually getting from their website?
Yeah. So there's Google Analytics, which you can use on any website. It's free and it gives you so much information. And even if you just look at the overview page, you just look at one page in your Google Analytics after you've set it up on your website, it's just going to tell you like how many people are coming to your website every day, where they're coming from. So that will tell you like which of your marketing channels are working really well for you. And then you can go really deep into it from there. And if you wanted to set up like different things to track, like how many people are going from your homepage to your contact page or whatever, it's a super powerful tool. But also, I think most website platforms at this point have like a dumbed down version of that, which I prefer because Google Analytics is a bit overwhelming. And so you can also use those, and that's a really good way to see where people are coming from.
When people are looking at some of these analytics, are there pieces of information that they want to be focused more on or like paying more attention to? I'm asking this because I think about Instagram, and like you can have an Instagram impression or like an impression on Facebook, for example, and it might just be like a quick second that people are scrolling through versus if someone's saving the reel or the post or whatever. So are there analytics or pieces of data that a website owner wants to be more aware of than others?
Yeah, I think what is it called? The length of time that someone is staying on each of your page, and then the bounce rate, that'll tell you a lot. So if it's saying like, oh, every time someone goes to your weddings page, that's the page where they end up leaving the website. Well, then you need to work on your weddings page. You need to make it more engaging or make sure that people know how to take the next step to contact you or whatever that may be. But those are some of the key ones that I like to look out for.
That makes a lot of sense. And I like you said the bounce rate, that's just if they're navigating off the site.
Yeah, right. So if they're just like, okay, I'm out of here, and then they exit, Google will tell you how long it takes before they do that on average, and then which page they're exiting.
Okay. Is there some sort of bounce rate that is like normal? So if you're getting a higher than X bounce rate, that's like, whoa, that's super bad, or like 2% bounce rate is like super good. What's kind of the normal range?
So anywhere between like 26% and 70% is average. So it varies a lot. But if you can get it between like 26 and 40%, that's pretty good.
Okay. Awesome. Of people that are like leaving the site. So these are 60%, let's say in the case of 40% that are actually staying on the site. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously now we're getting into a little bit more of like, data analytics, some pieces like that on the site. And if someone's listening to this right now and is like, oh my gosh, like this is getting a little over my head, I don't know if I want to do this, and they want to hire someone, maybe even someone like you, right, who helps professionally build these sites, are there some things that they should be looking for in a website designer or builder, or maybe even some questions that they should ask to help determine who they should select to work on their project for them?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a big question because there are so many different things that you could hire out on your website. Like it could just be SEO. It could just be design. It could just be strategy. It could just be copywriting or whatever. So I think the first thing you need to do is figure out, what do I actually need? So don't just say, okay, I'm going to look for somebody to help me with my website, because you're going to it's going to get messy really fast. So figure out like, do I need help with my brand messaging or my brand strategy? That's the first thing that if you don't have that nailed down, I would start there, because that's really going to help you figure out like who is the exact audience that I'm trying to speak to and what do they specifically need to see and hear from me. And then from there, you can build on that. So you can say, okay, now that I have that foundation, do I need to rebrand? Do I need a new logo and other, design assets um, in order to attract that type of person and in order to convey the unique selling proposition that I now know that I can offer? Like, what is special about my business? Why should people pick my venue over others? And making sure that that's reflected in the branding and the design. Um, by the way, this is going to be a lot of information because websites are so big, and it really does it's different for everybody. What do you need to work on? Um, from there, you can look at, do I need help with writing the content on the website, or can I do that myself? If that's something you want to outsource, you're going to look for a copywriter. And then you get into the website design. So if you've decided I don't need anyone to do all those other things, I just need someone to like build out the website, then you start looking at, of course, the designer's portfolio, making sure that you're happy with how their designs look. And then you want to have a conversation with them to make sure that you guys get along, because you're probably going to be working together for a month or 2 or 3. And when you're having that conversation, I think it's important to ask, of course, what is their process, making sure that they have a clear process laid out. And then are they going to be doing anything for SEO? Because that's not guaranteed. Are they going to be doing like the desktop design and the mobile design? I think those are the important things.
Quick question on that. Is it important for a venue to hire a website designer that has designed other websites before, or are there kind of associative industries that it's fine to hire across those?
Yeah, definitely needs to be a website designer, not just like a graphic designer, not just someone who's only ever done branding. There are a lot of people who do branding and websites, but not just someone who's never done a website before, because nowadays, when you're hiring a website designer, you're typically hiring a designer and a developer in one. It didn't used to be that way, but that's pretty standard nowadays, I would say. So you need somebody who understands, how do I actually build the thing? How do I set it up to where it's functioning properly, and making sure that you have any plugins that you need, or making sure that your domain is connected, all the technical stuff. There's so much there. And so you don't just want to hire somebody who knows how to use Adobe Illustrator, for example. That is somebody who can make beautiful things that are strategically designed is a very important skill. But with websites, it doesn't end there. So
I have one last question kind of as we wrap up this component, and then I do want to share your information just so people can reach out if they have questions. But what platforms do you like to build websites on? And if someone's listening to this right now and they're like, gosh, you do a Google search and it's like Wix, Weebly, WordSpace, or WordPress. There we go. WordPress, yeah. Squarespace. I was getting the two confused. All these different things, like so much noise, so many different platforms to build off of. Are there some go-to ones that you really like designing websites off of?
Yeah, so my faves are Squarespace and Showit. Do you want me to expand on that? Or?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be huge.
Okay, so Squarespace, I feel like, is best for people who want to keep it simple. And if you are DIYing, I think it's probably the best option. Not to say that it's easy, because I really want to be careful about that, because I feel like their advertising is a little misleading, because they're like, oh, anyone can do it. And I'm like, well, they've focused on giving it more complexity over the years. And so it's not as easy as it once was, but I still think it is one of the easier options. So anyway, just want to be realistic for people about that. And then Showit is really the one where I think is the most powerful. Like, if you want the most functionality and customization possible, if that's really what you care about, I say go with Showit.
And Showit, that's like SHOWIT?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Emily, for coming on the show today and sharing. I mean, we just did such a light touch point on so many different topics that I know that we could have gone in a lot greater depth, but if someone's looking for that, they're looking for more information, maybe they have a website that needs an overhaul or they need a brand new website, where can they reach out to you?
Yeah, well, I would love to help if that's the case. So if you go to byemilyjane.com, then I will have lots of free resources there for you. I have a huge blog archive of, well, you can learn way more in depth on any of the things that we talked about today. So you can start there if you want. And then, of course, you can also reach out if you're looking to work together. I'm also on Instagram at byemilyjane as well.
Amazing. I just was thinking about this as you were talking earlier. Maybe we could get a link to one of those downloads to put in the show notes so that if someone's looking and they're, thinking about SEO, or maybe even a list of those 5 things you mentioned. We'll talk after the show
Sure.
wraps up, but that could be really cool and helpful for people.
Yeah, so for anyone that's listening, I do have like a complete website checklist. So, I mean, it's like every single thing and the order in which I would do it, like every single step, if you want to download that. So I can give you the link to that if you want.
That's huge. Let's totally put that in the description. All right, awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm excited for people to hear this one.
Yeah, this was awesome. Thank you.